Have you ever felt trapped by overwhelming emotions or struggled to let go of pain? This video may be just what you need to free yourself emotionally. I'm going to share my top 5 lessons from Dr. David Hawkins' book, Letting Go. Now, this book is one of the most valuable books I have read. And I know there are a lot of self-help books out there in the world, and I haven't read every single self-help book, but I put this book in the top 3 self-help books in the world because of how valuable it is. And I believe every single human being should read this book. You will understand yourself on a much deeper level. It's very eye-opening. And what it's all about is how we have repressed and suppressed emotions in the body because we aren't taught how to actually deal with our emotions. And he talks about the problems that these repressed and suppressed emotions cause in our life and in our relationships with other people. And so it teaches you the letting go technique, which is the technique to deal with the emotions so you don't suppress them. And this technique is so simple, yet extremely effective. So stick around for the whole video because lesson number 5 is going to be the technique itself. I'm going to share this technique with you, how to apply it, so you can start applying it in your life today and start freeing yourself emotionally. So the first powerful lesson that I learned from this book is that your emotions control your thoughts. One of the most eye-opening lessons from letting go is understanding that our emotions actually control our thoughts. So there was a scientific study done that basically shows that we have a filing system in the mind. And in this filing system, we store a bunch of thoughts to a certain emotion. So when we feel that emotion, we're going to have all these thoughts based off that emotion. So for example, let's say you feel fear. You're going to have all these thoughts circulating in your mind based around fear. If you feel angry, you're going to have different thoughts. You're going to have angry thoughts circulating in your mind. And so Dr. David Hawkins says that you can literally have thousands of thoughts to one emotion, and that it's far more effective to deal with the emotions instead of the thoughts. When you apply the letting go technique and you clear out the negative emotion, all those negative thoughts go with it. And so when you feel a positive emotion, the side effect will be you'll naturally have positive thoughts. And so this is why the letting go technique is so powerful. It's also why when people say, just think positive thoughts, just have a positive mindset, doesn't actually work. We want to focus on our emotions, which control our thoughts. And so the reason that we have negative thoughts in the first place is because of all the suppressed emotions in the body. And so by applying this technique and clearing out all these suppressed emotions, the negative thoughts will stop. It's super powerful applying this technique to your life. It's really going to level you up and help you become a much happier and healthier person. Now, the second powerful lesson that I learned is the 3 ways we deal with our emotions. Another powerful insight from letting go is how we tend to handle emotions in one of 3 ways: suppression, expression, and escapism. Dr. David Hawkins explains that these reactions are usually automatic and they often lead to the very thing that we're trying to avoid: more emotional buildup. So we'll go through each one, starting with suppression. When we suppress emotions, we push them down and try to ignore them, either because they're uncomfortable or we think they're wrong to feel. And Dr. David Hawkins explains that suppression doesn't make the emotion disappear. It just stores it for later. Eventually it will surface, sometimes when we least expect it. Now the next one is expression. So expressing emotions may seem like a good thing. Like when you're angry, you may go and vent to a friend. When you're sad, you may want to cry. But Dr. David Hawkins explains that when you express an emotion, you're still suppressing some of it in the body. So expressing the emotion also isn't effective. However, I'm not saying that you can't cry if you feel like you need to cry. The idea is that you incorporate the letting go technique as well. And that's far more effective so that you don't store any emotions in the body. And the third one is escapism. Escapism means distracting ourselves. So it's using things like alcohol, drugs, food, watching TV, different things in the external environment to escape these emotions, to distract ourselves from these emotions. And in the moment, we may feel a sense of relief, but in reality, we're just avoiding the emotion, which usually hangs around in the background. So all of these approaches leads to suppression. By ignoring, reacting, or distracting, we're just delaying the process of letting the emotion go. So Dr. David Hawkins uses a pressure cooker analogy in his book where he basically says we're all like pressure cookers. So suppressed emotions in the body is like steam building up in a pressure cooker. And just like a pressure cooker eventually needs to release that steam, people need to release that pressure from suppressed emotions. And so what the mind does is the mind will look for a reason in the external environment to release some of that pressure. So for example, it's like when someone overreacts. You're like, whoa, why did that person overreact? It wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't the incident that happened right then and there that caused that reaction. It was the buildup of the suppressed emotions in the body and the mind looking for a reason to release some of that pressure. So he also talks about stress proneness as well. So this is where the more suppressed emotions you have in the body, the more you are stressed by the external environment. The more you start surrendering these suppressed emotions and releasing them from the body, the less stressed you become, the more calm you become. So these suppressed emotions don't stay hidden. They eventually come out as projections onto other people. So everyone has suppressed emotions and everyone is projecting their shit onto each other and they don't even have the awareness that they're doing this. And this is why we have so much problems in the world. So what is a projection? Projection is when we see qualities in others that are actually unresolved within ourselves. And so suppressed emotions don't just disappear. They show up in how we perceive and react to other people. Now, the third powerful lesson that I learned from letting go is the scale of consciousness and perception. Now, Dr. David Hawkins calibrated the scale of consciousness using kinesiology muscle testing. He talks more about this in his book, Power versus Force. Now, I'm going to show you a picture of the scale of consciousness here so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, a big chunk of the Letting Go book, he goes through these different levels of consciousness. So he goes through most of the negative levels and some of the positive levels. He doesn't do all the positive levels, but he gives you a real good idea of what it looks like to operate from these different levels of consciousness. So when you're in the lower levels of consciousness, this is when you're overwhelmed with negative emotions. You have that victim mindset, all that negative internal chatter. When you operate in the higher frequencies, this is when you're more positive and happy. You have more compassion and clarity. It's a better place to be, right? And so the idea is using the letting go technique to work your way up that scale of consciousness. because it's the suppressed emotions in the body that are keeping us in those lower frequencies and those negative emotions, because your vibration is naturally high. So it's like the buoy analogy that I use. You push a buoy under the water, as soon as you let that buoy go, it naturally raises back up to the surface. So your vibration works in the same way. As you let go of the suppressed emotions that are keeping you down in these lower frequencies, you naturally raise back up to the higher frequencies. So this is why using the letting go technique is so powerful. Now, another very interesting thing he talks about in the book is how at each of these levels, you perceive the same situation completely different. So it blew my mind when I realized this, because it means that people are walking around in this world operating in all these different states of consciousness and have all these different perceptions on reality based off the state of consciousness that they're operating in. Now I'm going to give you an example of this. So we're going to use the example of a homeless person. And I'm not going to go through every single level because I feel like it will kind of drag on too long. So I'll go through just some of the levels just to give you an idea of what it looks like to perceive a homeless person from these levels. So we'll start with shame. So in shame, the observer may feel disgusted or judgmental, thinking the homeless person is a failure or unworthy. Then let's say we move up to fear. The observer may feel threatened or anxious around the homeless person, worrying about their safety. Then let's say we move up to anger. The observer may feel frustrated or angry at the system, blaming the government or society for not doing more to help the homeless. Then let's say we move up to neutrality. Observer views homeless person without strong emotional reactions. So that's like you're just neutral about the situation. So then we move up to love. The observer feels deep compassion and unconditional love for the homeless person, recognizing their inherent worth. So you see how as you move up the scale of consciousness, your perception towards reality and what's going on becomes far more positive. So this is why this technique is so powerful. It will really change your life because it's going to change your perception on reality to be far more positive. It's going to free you emotionally, which will naturally just raise your vibration. Now, the fourth most powerful lesson that I learned is the impact of suppressed emotions on health. Suppressed emotions in the body can manifest physical illness and disease. So we're not really just getting sick because we're getting old. We're getting sick because of the accumulated suppressed emotions in the body, because we haven't been taught how to actually deal with the emotions. And so that's what's making us sick. And there's a chapter in the book called Physician, Heal Thyself. And so this is where Dr. David Hawkins talks about all of his own medical issues that he attributed to his own unresolved emotional trauma. He had all sorts of things from like dermatitis to back pain. He had a lot of gut issues that caused him to have to be on these restricted diets. He had gangrene in his fingertips. Like there was a long list. And he healed most of these health issues by simply applying the letting go technique and releasing the suppressed emotions. He was able to, eat food that he couldn't eat before. He could have a hot fudge sundae and it wasn't a problem for his gut because he healed his gut. So you have the power to heal any physical disease or illness in the body that is most likely linked to suppressed emotions. And so by applying this technique, you can get rid of your health issues as well as keep the body healthy so you don't develop more. And so it was really interesting as well because Dr. David Hawkins was giving a lecture talking about how he healed all of these things from the body by using this technique. And someone in the audience said, "But sir, why are you still wearing glasses? Couldn't you get your eyesight back as well?" And Dr. David Hawkins replies, I never really thought of losing my eyesight as a disease. Theoretically, yes, I should be able to get my eyesight back. So he decided to take his glasses off. And he said he drove home and he couldn't really see properly, but he ditched his glasses. And within about 6 weeks, he got his eyesight back and didn't need his glasses anymore. How crazy is that? Just blows my mind. Now, the last powerful lesson, number 5, is the letting go technique. Now we're up to the good bit, the letting go technique itself. And this technique is so simple. So what you do is when you have a negative emotion come up, accept the negative emotion without judgment. Accept how you feel and allow that emotion to be there. Because what we usually do is we resist the negative emotion, which causes us to suppress it. And so we don't allow it. So you want to just allow the negative emotion to be there, sit with it, be present with it, feel into it, and observe it. Because you aren't your thoughts or emotions. You're the conscious being that can take the step back and observe your thoughts and emotions. So you just want to observe your emotions and observe the physical sensations in the body. So by accepting the negative emotion without judgment, allowing it to be there, sitting with it and being present with it and observing the emotion and observing the physical sensations in the body, by doing this, you're allowing the emotion to run its course. And eventually it clears itself out. The emotion dissipates. So you know you have successfully surrendered an emotion when you just feel lighter and uplifted. You feel this emotional release and you just feel really good because the emotion's gone. And so that's it. That's the technique. It's that simple. And so I realized that I was resisting my negative emotions, but I wasn't aware that that's what I was doing. And so now I've been focusing on creating a habit of accepting and allowing the negative emotions instead. Now, in the book, he also talks about how some people may have resistance towards using the letting go technique. And if you feel like you have resistance towards using it, this is just the ego mind. So you might have thoughts like, oh, this technique seems stupid. This technique's not going to work. And that's okay. What Dr. David Hawkins says to do is just use the letting go technique on that resistance first, clear that out before you start using it on your suppressed emotions. Now, because we have so many suppressed emotions in the body, we need to release them one by one by one. And there was an analogy that I saw that I thought was really great. So think of a tissue box. And it's just like pulling tissues out of a tissue box, one by one by one. You just keep surrendering these emotions. And what will happen is it will naturally start raising your vibration as you clear these heavy, dense emotions out of your body, because your vibration is naturally high. So I hope you like this video and you got value out of it. Comment down below if you are committed to releasing your suppressed emotions. How many people out there are going to start applying this technique? I would love to know. So if you got value, hit the like button. And if you like this sort of content, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification. If you want to learn more about how he calibrated the scale of consciousness and his book, Power versus Force, I've already got a video on it on the 5 powerful lessons I learned from that book that I will link here. So if you want to learn more about Dr. David Hawkins' work, you can. Feel free to watch that and have an awesome day. Peace.